I want to show you not later than yesterday. I received this text from one of my clients. Okay. His name is Lawrence. And he basically told me, so he worked with me for 90 days straight. And one day I woke up, he sent me this text. Okay. A couple of weeks after he was done with the coaching program. He said, Max, I slept with 4 women today. 1 girl in the morning, 1 girl in the afternoon, and my first threesome in the evening. Okay. And that is the type of results that I get to my clients. You're going to hear stories like this over and over again in this event. Okay. Now, let me ask you this. Would you like to be sleeping with 4 different women in just one day? Would you like to have your first threesome this weekend? Now, the thing is, I cannot guarantee these results because you're not my clients yet. You're not in my coaching program. And after all, I worked with Lawrence for 90 days to get him to that point. But what I can 100% guarantee today is that during these 2 days, if you follow my advice, I will treat you exactly like I treated Lawrence. I will hold nothing back. I will give you the exact same framework that he had access to. Okay. You in this event, you will be my client for the next 48 hours. This event will be immersive. It will be action oriented. It will be results focused. It is not called, watch Max Bel for 2 hours and do nothing. Okay. It's not called the law of attraction event. It's not called any of that. It's called 2-day bootcamp, because you and I are going to have a conversation for 2 days. And then you're going to go out and implement that stuff in the real world, guys. Okay, so you are expected to take action during this event. It is time to leave the watered down mainstream dating advice behind. Okay, and I want to make this super clear. Most dating advice is a bunch of woo-woo nonsense that doesn't work. And guys get stuck on level 1 for months. Now, what is level 1? Level 1 is I have approach anxiety. Okay. And I want to show you a screenshot. Funny enough, like my conversation with Lawrence, the client you saw earlier. Okay. This conversation happened the same day that I had this conversation with this guy. This guy is not my client. Okay. I blurred his name, blurred his face. And what he told me was frustrating as hell. He told me a few months before that he was in another coaching program. And he said, he was in another coaching program. And then months later, I reached out again for this bootcamp. And I said, how's your coaching session? How's your coaching session going? He said, right now, basically, I still have anxieties. Okay. And right now, as we speak, there's a hot girl next to me and I don't know what to say. Okay. I'm sitting across an attractive girl and not sure what I can say to her. And I'm like, what the fuck? What did they teach you in this program? And then he's like, they taught me to be aware of my feelings and release them or express them honestly. I'm like, seems incredibly effective, dude. And then a few minutes later, he told me, damn, I missed the opportunity. Okay. And he's like, can you get me better results? And I'm like, yeah. You're asking me if I can get you better results than not being able to approach a girl after months in a coaching program? Okay. So I hope I'm waking you up right now, because there's a whole other level to this shit. If right now you have approach anxiety, you don't know what to say to a girl you're seeing on the street, there's a whole other level. Okay. And my dating advice, what you're going to hear in this event, is based on the science of achievement. There's a book that changed my life called Peak by Anders Ericsson. And this book teaches how to become a top performer in your niche. Okay. And that book basically studies the patterns of success, the patterns of, Tiger Woods, the patterns of elite athletes, how they got to where they are right now, how they became the best in their categories. And this book shows 3 patterns. The first one is getting coaching, mentors, getting help, like a proven path to success. The second pattern is deliberate practice. And so deliberate practice is it's actually almost a trademark for this guy. It's a his own proprietary concept. Deliberate practice means taking a specific action to get a specific outcome. So it's the opposite of just like taking action, right? If you've been given the advice of like doing some mass approaches, approaching 100 girls in a row to hope that you're going to get different outcomes, this is insanity, right? There's a quote from Einstein that says, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So deliberate practice is the opposite of that. And we're going to talk about it in this event. The last pattern is repetition. Okay, so you need to take massive action, but every time you need to have feedback. You need to have like a specific guidance. And this is why you're here. I will teach you seduction the way I learned it from my mentor with the 80-20 principle. Okay, 20% of what you're going to do are going to bring you 80% of the results. Now, who am I? Super quickly. I know this is important. I don't want to brag. I don't want to share too much of my story. You're going to hear some of it later. But really quickly, when I was 20 years old, I became the youngest dating coach in the world. I don't like to brag, but it's just an observable fact. I was featured on Canadian TV at 20 years old. I also built, at the time when I was younger, I built like an inner circle. So this is like a group of guys working towards their success with dating and their love life. And I did this with a company that is dead now called Real Social Dynamics. And it used to be the #1 dating coaching company. So I built basically the #1 group in Northern America, in Montreal, Canada, for guys, working on their dating and love life. Since 2018, I've helped 3,400 guys, well over that, actually. I'm the author of The Attraction Script, which is applying the science of persuasion and influence to seduction. Founder of this website, elitedatingmentoring.com. Okay. I can honestly say I've slept and dated gorgeous women in every major city I've traveled to, be it in Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Canada, you name it. Okay. And I do live half of the year in Eastern Europe nowadays. I love marketing. I love pickup. I love seduction. I love sales. And I also studied in some of the top universities in Europe, arguably the #1 school in Europe for international relations, and also arguably the #1 business school in Canada. Anyway, so why should you care? Because that's a bunch of bragging, but what should you care about this event? What's in it for you? So in this event, we're going to do two things. The first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you to a completely new reality. We're going to talk about the new sexual market. We're going to talk about your journey, how you can start your journey today. We're going to talk about the player manifesto, how to meet women anywhere, anytime, how to kill your approach anxiety. And obviously, at the end of this call, you're going to have assignments and missions. And tomorrow, on Sunday, we're going to unlock the attraction system. I'm going to walk you through steps for getting unlimited phone numbers, setting up dates via text, having great first dates, making her chase you, sexualizing the conversation. All right. Guys, I hope you are excited for this. Now, you can forget online dating. For the next 2 days, just forget it, because we're not going to talk about it. And what I'm going to give you in this event is going to be an alternative to that. Okay, we're going to attack your beliefs. We're going to attack the dark force holding you back from making a change in your dating life. I'm also going to give you very practical, actionable techniques and principles to start meeting women today. Okay, you're going to acquire unconscious competence. That's my end goal for you. Okay, now, as a quick disclaimer, okay, at the end of this event, at the end of the 2 days, I'm going to make you an offer. If you do take action, you do see the results, and you are moving your life in the right direction, I'm going to make you an offer. It's going to be the best offer I've ever made in the history of my coaching business. And I'm basically going to offer you to work with me inside of my coaching program, right? It's going to be the only promotion. And then before that, we're not going to talk about any sales, any promotion stuff. Okay, you can put that on the side, and then from there, we're just going to focus on the hardcore work. Okay. But at the end of this event, you will have a unique offer with a special pricing and special bonuses to start making a permanent change in your life. All right. Awesome. Now, we're going to start. We're going to start this event with an actual story. I want to tell you the story of my first wingman. And before we do, I want to see in the chat if you guys are excited. So just drop the word yes if you can see me, if you're excited, if you want me to tell you the story of Matt, if you want me to tell you the story of my first wingman. Awesome. So basically, I met Matthew over the summer when I was 18 years old. And so I spent an entire summer with this guy practicing my pickup skills with him. And at first, Matthew was actually much better than me. Okay. He didn't have much approach anxiety. And so what we would do is him and we would actually go out for like 8 hours a day. And sometimes we would go out from 12 p.m. until 4 to 5 a.m. in the morning. Can you imagine going out approaching girls from 12 p.m. to like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning? What that feels like? It's hard. It's fucking hard. And so this guy initially helped me a lot with approach anxiety, but at some point, him and I just lost contact. And the reason for that is that we had a very different work ethic. A lot of times we were going out together and he just wanted to relax. He wanted to get a beer, take some time off. And that pissed me off. Quickly, I started putting in more hours than him, going out harder, making more difficult approaches, testing the limit. I was not afraid anymore. Okay, so he had taught me how to get rid of my approach anxiety. And then from there, I just started flying from my own wings, basically. I was hungrier than him. I wanted more speed, more success. Ultimately, I had a bigger vision than him. And then at some point, I met my first mentor, Mr. Jamal. Some of you know this story. I share the story in the attraction script marketing video. And from there, my life took a completely different turn. Okay, I got myself mentored with somebody that knew exactly what to do to get me results. I got a clear path on how to get better. I got massive feedback. A couple of months later, I flew across the world from Paris to Canada, and I became friends with some of the top guys in the world in this area. I got new mentors as well in very specific areas of seduction. Okay, like online dating. I got a mentor with specifically online dating, leveraging social media, learning social circle, like all these things, right? And I also paid a bunch of like coaching programs as well. You have to understand, like I basically paid my dues, right? Yeah, like sometimes in life, if you want to master a skill, you just got to pay your due, man. You're just going to do what is necessary to do to get to where you want to be. Okay, and so from there, things started getting easier. I launched the first business, which was a nightlife promoting agency in Montreal. My goal was to bring dozens of hot girls to the best clubs in the city. And also on the side, I started coaching guys just for fun. Guys like you, okay? But the difference was that I was doing it in a nightclub. I was going out with guys, coaching them in real life. And I started building my second business, which became EliteDatingMentoring.com. And so you have to understand, like I went from this guy, on the left, being like a friend zone, awkward virgin, to this guy on the right, dating my dream girls. And I took those two specific pictures for a very particular reason. Because these two pictures, they actually reflect who I was. And they also reflect a point in my life where I looked around me and I was like, I made it. Like I've achieved the things I've always wanted to achieve, right? This was a very specific night in Montreal. And I was, bringing dozens of girls to the club. And I had an epic night that night. And I looked around me and I was like, damn, like, my vision came true. 4 or 5 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, I was this guy, an awkward version. And I had barely slept with, the time this picture was taken, I was a virgin. But the time I met Matt, I had slept with like 3, 4 girls. Okay. And I went from this to this. And, this is a journey that took me a long time. But then what happened, and this, we're getting back to our story here. One day I saw Matt again. So I was on holiday in Paris. I was coming back from Canada, and I was spending the night in a nightclub. And I was hanging out with a good friend of mine. We had one of the best tables in the club. I was surrounded with 4 or 5 girls. And then I saw him, right? And he was with another wingman, right? And I saw that nothing had changed. Like, I was at the table surrounded by hot girls, and he was on the other side of the club by himself, no setup, no girls, getting rejected left and right. I could see his conversations led nowhere. And I went up to him and we started having a conversation about life. Hey, how did things go, man? It's been a long time. I haven't seen you, blah, blah. And he told me during that conversation that he was still working his bullshit 9 to 5. He had barely slept with any girl in the last 3-4 years. This is crazy, right? And also, he was shocked to hear my story, my side of the story. Basically, he was shocked to see me in that setup, surrounded by hot girls. He was astonished to hear my hero journey in the last 3-4 years. And for a split second, I put myself in his shoes, and I asked myself, what would my life be like? What would it look like? What would it feel like if I hadn't gone through that entire journey? I would probably be the guy roaming down the club, getting rejected left and right, going home alone at night. And that thought, honestly, made me sick. You have to understand that I'm not judging the guy. Okay, I'm not judging the starting point. Him and we started at the same point. 3-4 years ago, we were the exact same. In fact, I told you, he was a bit better. He had more social ease, right? What I'm judging is the fact that he didn't do shit for 3-4 years. Okay, what's disgusting to me is finding yourself in the exact same spot that you were in the last 3-4 years. So I want you to ask yourself right now, like, have you actually moved forward in life in the last 3-4 years? Right now is a very essential point. You have to ask yourself, like, where are you at in life? Okay, what matters is definitely not where you start, it's where you go. That's what I learned from the story of Matt. So with that being said, that brings us to this chapter 3, right? Your journey. We're not here to talk about Matt. We're here to talk about you. But the thing is, and maybe I hope you agree with this, the story of Matt is a very common story. In fact, it was my story as well. Before I met my first mentor at the age of 18, I was just like Matt, right? I was lost. I was, roaming down the club with no proven path, nothing. And maybe that's your story as well. Maybe you have worked on some areas of your life, like your business, your career, your health, whatever. I know a bunch of guys who are doing martial arts, which is fantastic. But, you've left this area, the dating stuff, stagnant. Okay, and that makes me really sad. And that's the driving force behind this whole event here. Because I don't want you to find your girlfriend in the next 2 days. I want you to start moving your life in the right direction. Does that make sense? Right? So I am action-oriented. I'm not dependent on your outcome. I don't care about the outcome you get. I care about what you're going to do in this event to change things. That's the most important. Okay? And so to kick off this event, we're going to do a little assignment here. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to switch, new share, handbook. So you're going to get access in this event, you're going to get access to the handbook. So the handbook is a series of assignments, and I'm going to go through them real quick. You have to do those after the event is done. After, not the event, this call. After this call, you have to go through that. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do is what I call a brutal assessment. So you're going to tell yourself exactly where you're at, your name, your age, Okay. And you're going to pause for a sec and look at your answers. And you're going to ask yourself, am I happy with what I see on the paper? Have I moved my life in the right direction in the last 3-4 years? Am I disappointed at myself, pissed off? And so the point of this brutal assessment is to create a sense of urgency to act, a sense of urgency to level up in life. And the step 2 is defining exactly where you want to go. You're going to describe your dream dating life. You're going to tell yourself why you haven't achieved things. Maybe it's a lack of guidance. Maybe it's a lack of a step-by-step method, lack of accountability, whatever. And then you're going to define the actions that you need to take in order to achieve your dream dating life in the next 6 months. Okay. And so for the most serious guys, you can book a complimentary call with me to do this, because that's what we do on calls as well. Now, the step 2 is going to be the 3 sacred questions. And this is something I got from another mentor. You need to ask yourself very clearly what kind of man you are, what kind of life you want to live, and what are the ideal companions for that life. Until you answer those 3 questions, you don't have the clarity to act. If you don't know what you can tolerate in life, what your standards are, the kind of women you want to attract in your life, how are you going to take action? How are you going to move things in the right direction? So you have to be extremely clear on that. And this is why you need to do this assignment as well. And the next thing is the pledge. And so the pledge is, I want you to write on the paper that your dating journey starts today and that you're ready to commit to your dreams. And I want you to sign this paper with your name. It's very important that you put meaning to this, right? I hope you understand this. Cool, awesome. So we'll go back to the Google Doc. And so if you don't have this handbook, message me handbook on either Facebook or Telegram or email, whatever, and I'll send it to you for free. Okay, it's part of the coaching program. All right, cool, awesome. Now, why act now? What is the urgency? Cool, like you've understood that there's, I want to create some intrinsic urgency, right? Within yourself, like, oh shit, I haven't done shit. I need to do stuff in order to move forward. But what we're going to be doing in this chapter 4 is creating urgency based on the current state of things. How is the world evolving right now? Do you look around and look at the dating market? Things have changed. Okay, and that's what we're going to discuss right now. In order to discuss this, I need to tell you another story. Okay, I need to tell you the story of Kiara. So a couple of years ago, I was in Canada and I had a roommate named Justin. And one day Justin invited his long-term girlfriend over. She was a very sweet, innocent girl, very gorgeous as well. And she had, maybe you can relate to this, she had this very strong, like independent vibe. I'm an independent woman, right? She was very career driven. She had this blueprint basically. She was running a small e-commerce business. She had written 2 books and she was very into personal development. Okay. Now, for me, if you ask me honestly, this is the kind of dream girl to me. Like it's the exact archetype of girls I'm attracted to. Okay. And never in a million years, I would think like this girl is a hoe, like this girl is a slut. I would never think this, right? When you see the girl, when she talks about herself, like you would not think this. Now, the thing is, the night he brought her, the night he brought her, we had a little conversation. I started asking her some questions. And within 15 minutes of conversations, she told me that she had been on sugar baby dates before meeting Justin. Okay. This means like she was literally almost an escort. Okay. So if you're not familiar with this concept, a sugar baby is a girl that is kind of like paid with gifts to be with a rich guy. Okay. And so she told us, me and Justin, my roommate was shocked, by the way. She told us, yeah, I've been like on a few sugar baby dates, right? And of course, like when girls say this, a lot of times they minimize the reality. So the reality is much probably that she was like a full-time sugar baby. Okay. But we're not gonna assume anything. We're just gonna pretend that yes, she's just been on a few sugar baby dates, right? But that led nowhere, let's just say. So why do I tell you this? Why do I tell you this little anecdote? Well, I want to show you that everyday innocent girls can have sugar daddies, okay? Especially the ones you would not expect to be spoiled. And there's a very simple reason for that. It is incredibly easy, okay? All that Kiara had to do, she told us the process was going on seeking.com, the number one, sugar baby website, create a profile in like 10 minutes. That's literally the same thing as doing a Tinder profile for you guys. Okay. It takes like literally less than 10 minutes. She just had to upload a few Instagram pictures. And by the way, she's a hot girl. So a hot girl has a load of Instagram pictures, right? So it really took her realistically 3-4 minutes. She had nothing to do, right? And then from there, she immediately got requests from wealthy guys to go on dates. It's that easy. Okay. Now let me ask you this. If you were a hot girl, wouldn't you do the same? If we're being honest. I personally would. Right. And I would be smarter than all the girls. I would be like, baby, you're not fucking me tonight. Right. And I will take all their money. I would fuck guys in not in the literal sense, but I would take their money and then do nothing and then hang out with a hot guy. Okay. You have to understand that the new dating world has made things so easy, things so easy for girls to use and manipulate guys. Okay. And don't be bitter about it. Right? It's like, accept it. It's fine. Don't be negative around it. Okay. So now let's talk about this, because it's okay to, it's good to have a feeling, oh yeah, dating has changed, but now we have to analyze what happened. Okay. So dating has changed. Yes. It's become more chaotic. It's become more competitive. And you have to look at the different patterns. The first one is the fall of marriage. Sexual capitalism. So church, back in the day, it used to be like a regulating organization for sex, basically. It's like you would get, you would be a random guy, a regular guy, you would get married at church, and the moral code would guarantee the loyalty of your girl, basically. So monogamy is kind of like communism, right? It's communism for chicks. It's a set of rules that will give you a chick regardless of your value on the sexual market. If you look at communism, it's like you don't need to work, you're going to get paid, right? But now it's a capitalist sexual market. This means that the winner takes all. The rich get richer, the poor get poor. Okay, so the marriage is not going to save you. Girls are going to take your money and leave, right? Now, the second pattern is the rise of online platforms. And so you have things like social media, dating apps, sugar daddy websites, campsites as well. And so the rise of these platforms has increased the competition even more, okay, even more than the fall of marriage, because the competition is not local anymore. It's global. So you have like, basically back in the day when people moved from the countryside to the cities, you had a bunch of opportunities, right? But you also had a bunch of competition because girls could choose between a bunch of different guys. But now the online platforms, girl can choose between even more options. A girl can choose between, let's say, a girl can choose between like the influencer in Los Angeles or the business guy in New York, right? That this is literally how chicks operate nowadays. So with social media, the top 1% guys in the city get all the girls. Okay. And obviously it's hard to quantify those things because there's no studies yet. But when studies will come out, I guarantee this will be, this will be the trends they will expose. Okay. Now, the pattern number 3 is mainstream feminism. So mainstream feminism, the Me Too movement, okay, this shit cut your dick off. Most guys are afraid to take action. They're afraid of approaching girls in the daytime. Approaching girls at the mall is considered creepy nowadays. It's considered, it's borderline sexually offending unless you completely flip the script and know exactly what to do. So all these things have changed radically the sexual market, right? And I know this. I'm able to observe these things, but how can I tell that things have changed? Well, my clients are much older than me. They're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s sometimes. And so they're the ones who reported that. They're the one who told me, Max, like, I'm lost. Like, dating has changed so much. And that's why they look up to me as well. Because I understand the chaos, basically. Okay. So I want to show you this little image right here. And by the way, if you want this document, so you can send me a message for the handbook. And if you want this document, you can send me a message for the notes. Okay. We are going to call it notes. I'm going to give you this because obviously there's a bunch of info and sometimes I'm just skipping because we don't have much time. So dating has gone from this to this, right? So 1955, it would look in theory like this. Okay, so even the rich, like even the regular guys would get girls, but nowadays it looks like this. Okay, and so the rich, the high status, the good looking, they get all the options. They get all the girls. Okay, and we actually have studies that came out recently. Okay, so we have a study that showed that the number of guys under 30 not having sex has tripled since 2008. Okay, the proportion of incels, so involuntary celibate, between the age of 22 and 35 has increased like crazy as well over the last 2 decades. Okay, so it's just a fact. And being a good, honest guy, like being a good guy, like like I was, and like maybe you are, it's not enough. Like it's not working anymore. Okay, it could have worked 15, 20 years ago. You could have gone through life having a good 9 to 5, a nice car, a nice house, and getting a cute looking girl. But these days are over, and that's why so many of you are single, so many of you are struggling massively with dating. And so that brings me to chapter 5, which is the upgrade. You need to upgrade your reality, basically. Okay, you need to become competent in dating and stop being a nice guy. And so I'm going to very quickly walk you through over this blueprint because you have to understand how I'm thinking about dating. Okay, what needs to be done in order to get the results you want. And then after that, we're going to dive straight into my first approach, and then we're going to talk about conquering your anxiety and exactly how to meet women during the day. Okay. So the first thing is you need to be high value, basically. Okay, because there's so much of a competition right now. You need to be the richest you can. You need to be the most in shape you can, the most well-connected. You need to go on cool adventures. You need to have an amazing lifestyle. Okay. So many guys refuse to adopt this as the truth, right? They're like, oh no, but maybe you could be a loser and still get laid. It's just not true. It's just not true. You have to get an holistic approach. You have to work on yourself. Okay. And so I always take this business analogy that marketing yourself, which is what I'm going to teach you with a low quality product, is called being a scam. Okay. It's called being a scam. So you have to have a great product first. And your confidence that you're going to get, it has to be a rational feeling, right? It has to be something like, I know I'm the shit. I know I'm the guy. That's why I'm confident, right? There needs to be like a rationality behind it. Also, your value is dynamic. So I need to tell you that, when I started out, I was 18, 19 years old. I had no money. I had no money. Okay, I learned this seduction thing without money. And so I had to be more competitive than rich guys. I had to compete on fun. I had to compete on adventure. I had to compete on mystery, sex, all these things, right? So money is not going to solve your dating problems. It's going to create new ones. Okay, as I want you to disconnect money and having loads of money with being a high value guy. That's not the case. Okay, so being high value is a holistic approach. And it's also what girls care about is, where are you moving? You know, where's your life going? It needs to be something. Like when I met girls, I was 18, 19 years old. They could sense my energy. They could sense my drive. Okay, and that's very attractive. So if you have like a small business, but the girl is sensing that you are building that business, it's very attractive. Okay, I'm giving you a very specific example here so that you understand. Now, the second thing is a strong magnetic vibe. Okay, that's like your energy, right? So it's like when they meet you, it's like, what is your energy? And most likely your energy needs to be leading, assertive, right? It needs to be sexual, and it needs to be fun. Those are the three things. The third thing is your influence skills. Okay, so you need to be sharp on communication. And that's why, I'm going to teach you in this training, I'm going to teach you scripts, I'm going to teach you systems for making things happen, for communicating the way you want. Okay. And now let's talk about your problems, because right now, like, the problem you have with your reality is, number one, that you don't take enough action. You're not meeting enough women. You don't have enough opportunities. And so that's why you need to keep the pipeline full. Okay, hot girls are everywhere. Love is abundance. So you need to take consistent action, and you need to remove the things that prevent you from taking action, such as porn, right? We're not going to make it the focus of this call, because this call is pragmatic. But if you can remove porn from your life, I guarantee you get much better results. And the second problem you have that's preventing you from making that reality upgrade is your lack of a proven framework, right? Which is what I just walked you through. So when you're a player, basically your life should look like this. It should look like 80% of work, 80% of being on your path, and then 20% of having fun, socializing, dating, fucking girls, going on amazing adventures. That's what your balance should look like. Okay. And so in my day-to-day life, literally what I do is, I work on my business, work on my career, then I do physical training, and then I socialize and I get on dates. Okay. I get on dates, I go clubbing, I take, grab coffees with some friends, network, I go to house parties, things like this. Right. And that's the holistic approach. You need to set up your life in that way. All right. You need to make that pledge, bringing you back to the Attract Her virtual bootcamp handbook. All right. Awesome. Cool, guys. So now we're going to dive into the actual gold, which is how to start taking action. And we're going to slowly get into like the assignments, what you need to do today, not tomorrow, not next week, today, to get the results you want, since you're a part of this bootcamp. So I'll tell you the story of my first approach, and you're going to see it's a very inspiring one. Because my first approach, you might think like, oh, like I was, the real deal at 19 years old and I sucked at 16, but that's not completely how it went. Okay, my story is a bit more chaotic, as every story. Sometimes for marketing purposes, I need to streamline everything. I need to make it look like I sucked and then I became the best with my mentor. And that is the truth. But also at the same time, my story is kind of like this, right? And my learning curve is kind of like this, right? So I made my first approach when I was 16 years old. And I approached, the story is, I was doing a summer school. I was learning English, and it was a 2 weeks summer school. And I saw this girl every single day. She was in another class, but I saw her every single day, and she was gorgeous. Okay, and basically, the last day, I made a plan in my head. Okay, and I decided, like, look, I'm going to approach her no matter what. I'm going to approach her. It's the last day. I have nothing to lose anymore. I'm just going to go. Okay. And basically, the last day, I went to class 15 minutes earlier, and I waited for her next to the metro exit because I knew she would come from this metro exit, because the day before that, I followed her to see where she would go. Right. So I knew which metro exit she would come from, and I waited in front of it. And 15 minutes before class, she came. And basically, I'll tell you exactly what I did. I saw her, I run after her, then I grabbed her eye contact, I put my hand like this, made a sign for her to stop. Okay. And then I turned my body literally and said, hey. I paused for a sec. I looked at her in the eyes, and I said, hey, I had to stop you. Like, I saw you from over there, and you really intrigued me. I said this. I said, you really intrigued me. Okay. That was my first ever approach. I was 16 years old. I knew nothing. I had no coach. I had no mentor. I had nothing. I just had a willingness to act and change my life. And the approach, surprisingly, went extremely well. It went extremely well. We talked about everything like two teenagers would. Okay. We talked about books. We talked about parties, studies, things like this for like 15 minutes. We both went to class. And then right before she went to class, basically she went to class. I went my way. And then I realized, fuck, I didn't get her phone number. Okay. So basically, I waited the lunch break. And on the lunch break, I went back to her and got her phone number. Okay. And then a few weeks, I think it was like 15 days after, I went on a date with her. And the story ends here because on the first date, I just fucked it up. And it just didn't work out. But that is not the point of this story. The point of this story is that if I, a 16-year-old virgin who knew nothing about, what to do, I just watched a few YouTube videos. I watched literally a few, like 1 or 2 tutorials, and that's it. If I was able to do that, so are you. After this call, so are you, my friend. Okay. Especially that I'm going to give you much more than that. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. Okay. Awesome. So guys, tell me in the chat if this story is resonating with you. I'm just going to see and just want to check real quick if some people are, I think it's working. I think the Facebook Live is working. I want to make sure guys are able to see the replay. Okay, cool. So now we're going to talk about how to conquer the dark force, how to literally eradicate your approach anxiety. We're going to talk about 7 steps. Okay. So the first step to kill your approach anxiety is called reframing that approach anxiety. Okay, a lot of guys, a lot of mainstream coaches are going to tell you that you have approach anxiety, you're afraid of doing something. That's not true. You're not afraid to talk to a hot girl. Okay, in fact, you talk to a hot girl many times throughout your week. If sometimes you talk to the cashier, maybe your sister is hot and you talk to her. So you're not afraid of talking to a hot girl. What you are afraid of is putting on an act. What you're afraid of is performing something. So it's performance anxiety. It's not approach anxiety. You're not afraid to go and say hi. You're afraid to go say hi and pick up the girl. Does that make sense? And so if you remove the performance aspect, if you can let go of that, look, I'm just going to talk to her free from outcome. I don't give a shit what happens there. If you can go up to a girl with that mindset, you're going to liberate yourself from that approach anxiety. Does that make sense? So that's literally the first thing, is to lower the bar of what is good enough. Okay, that brings me to my step 2, which is lower the bar of what is good enough. So we actually have a rule in my bootcamp, not the virtual bootcamp, but the real bootcamp. We have a rule, which is that it doesn't matter what you do, what you say in the first 3 conversations. So you have to approach at least 3 girls before you can consider making a change or getting some feedback or overthinking things. You have to take action at least 3 times before you even think about anything else than taking action. Does that make sense? Okay. And so literally when I'm coaching guys and they're like, hey, Max, like, how did, do you have any feedback? I'm like, bro, like, did you, like, I didn't see anything, right? Because they didn't approach 3 girls. So I'm pretending it doesn't exist, right? And even for myself in my normal life, if I'm a bit anxious, I will talk to 3 people and then not give a shit and pretend like it didn't happen. Okay. The third thing is reframing anxiety into excitement. Okay, so when I got started on my journey, I progressively rewired my brain into processing anxiety into actual excitement, just like in the movies. So basically, instead of like being anxious when I see a hot girl, I start being excited. I'm like, there's a hot girl. Like literally my body's responding to that. I see a hot girl, my body is literally, my biology is my DNA, if you will, is literally telling me, Max, you have to approach. She's a hot girl. You need to fuck her. You need to put babies in her, right? You need to put babies in her. So instead of getting scared, I'm getting excited. So I see a pretty hot girl, my heart starts racing. I accelerate my walking speed, and then boom, I go say hi. Right? So I create motion. We're going to come back to this later on, but I create motion, movements. Okay. Step number 4 is reframing anxiety into growth. So early on, I gave myself another rule. All these things, by the way, they're things that I learned with, funny enough, Matt. Okay, the first wingman that did nothing with his life after we split. Okay, so Matt taught me a few of these mindsets. So reframing anxiety into growth. I gave myself another rule, which is if I feel resistance or fear, it means that I still have some performance anxiety, and that makes me mandatory to go approach and say hi. Okay. Dude, like, if you're scared, that's what he told me. That's what Matt told me. They're like, if you're scared, you need to go. Means like your problem is not solved yet. Means you still have to figure this out. So go talk to her, talk to as many people as possible until you don't have any anxiety, until it's like, it feels normal to you. Okay, you need to normalize this. And I also knew that, resistance in my life equals growth. So anything you resist, persist. If it's hard, if it feels hard, think about the way, when you go to the gym or when you do a marathon. If it's hard, it means you're growing. It means you're getting better. So you need to persist, right? It's the exact same mindset with dating. And every approach comes with a bit of knowledge. Okay, it's going to give you a little feedback, a little reference for your life, right? You can store that little knowledge in your brain. It's like, oh, when I say this, I get a negative response. But when I say this, I get a positive one, right? Awesome. So step number 5 now is defining your whys. And so everything in life starts with why. That's exactly the reason I gave you the handbook. In the handbook, you're going to have to figure out, like, why you're doing things. What kind of man you are, what kind of life you want to live. That's going to give you the why. Okay. And so back in the day when I was much younger, my why was literally, I wanted to become the greatest pickup artist in the world. Okay. So maybe right now, a lot of you are going to laugh. I laugh at myself so hard because pickup artist is just, it's a marketing thing. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It doesn't work. Okay. Some of it is based on social psychology, which I use, but the myth of being a pickup artist is nothing. It doesn't exist. But that was my why, and so since I had such a strong why, it got me to take massive action, to put myself in difficult scenarios, approaching girls with their parents, approaching girls sitting at a cafe, right? Approaching girls with like 2 guys around, like doing these crazy scenarios. I'm like, if I want to become the best, I better do this shit. I better put myself in that situation if I want to become the best, right? How can you expect to become the best if you're not putting yourself in the most extreme scenarios? Now, another why nowadays, a much more mature why for me now is, life is too short. There's an economic crisis. There is, a war here in Europe. Life is too fucking short to not enjoy it. And that brings me back to the player setup, which is 80% you want to work on yourself, work on your life, and then 20% you want to have fun and go on amazing adventures. And so that is my why. So if I spend like 10 hours in a single day working on my business, and then I'm going out to see a friend and I see a hot girl, man, I'm going to approach, because I want to make the best out of every single day. I want to go on amazing adventures. Who knows what's going to happen if I do talk to her? Okay, so that's my why. Now here, when you're going to get the notes, okay, comment, note, or send me a message on Facebook, Telegram, email. When you're going to get the notes, you're going to have a little space to write down your why. Okay, I gave you 2 of my whys, immature one, let's just say, and a mature one, and then you can figure out what is your why. Okay. Step number 6 is destroying your excuses logically. Okay, and so you can do this little exercise. You can take a piece of paper and then write down like all of your logical excuses, like, oh no, I can't approach because I'm in my pajamas. Oh no, I can't approach because I don't have time, right? I didn't shave this morning. So you can have like all these different weird excuses, and you want to destroy them logically, basically. So you want to write them down and be like, okay, I don't have time. Is it true? Like logically, is it true that I don't have time? Like what's going to happen if I arrive 5 minutes late to a coffee with a friend? Like what's possibly going to happen? Nothing, right? So you want to logically overcome all these bullshit excuses that you give yourself to not take action. Okay. And I want to end this chapter with a few quotes that I fucking love. The first one is from Eckhart Tolle, right? Who is the author of The Power of Now. And he says, the present moment is all you ever have. When you think about it, it's incredibly genius to say this. You can live in your past, you can think about your past, but it's never going to come back. And you can think about the future, but it's not there yet. So the only thing you have is the present moment. It's the only thing you can ever impact right now. The only way you can change your life is by being and living in the present moment, and it's by taking action. Another one I love is the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And the second best time is now. Okay. And the last one is action is the only solution to your problem. Cool. Awesome. So now we're going to dive into more than her shooting my ass down. It's resonating. Okay, cool. I love you guys. Awesome. Great energy. Cool. So now let's dive into chapter 8, how to meet girls anywhere. All right. So we're going to talk about 3 things. First of all, what is a magnetic approach? So a magnetic approach, what I call a magnetic approach, is literally the step 1 of my attraction system. And tomorrow we're going to unlock, if you will, the attraction system for you. I'm going to show you what it is all about. But today we're going to dive into step 1, which is making a magnetic approach. Okay. And then I'm going to give you exactly step by step, like what I do to approach girls. And then I'm going to tell you my word for word lines. Okay. Copy paste my first lines. Okay. And by the end of this, you will be ready to take action. You will be ready to take massive action and change your life. Okay. There is nothing else I will have to tell you. So what is the magnetic approach? I told you one thing earlier. I said, lower the bar of what is good enough. Okay. And so I want to bring this mindset back, because the goal of approaching a girl is not to fuck her within the first 2 minutes. Okay. It is not to impress her. It's simply to start a conversation. Okay. So it's nothing else. The goal of approaching is to get the conversation started. It is not to get the girl incredibly attracted to you in just 3 seconds. That is very unrealistic. And that's not what happens to me. It's not what happens to my friends. It's not how the world works. Okay. And so a lot of times my approach is just, hey, or are you new here? Or, hey, I'm Max. It's very, very like simple. And it's funny because I had this realization when I was in Romania one night, and basically I was with this guy who very successful entrepreneur, but he sucked with girls. And so I went out with him and I kind of like showed him around like what I do and stuff like that. And basically I approached a girl, and at first, like I sucked, like my conversation sucked, right? I was, my opener was terrible, but within 25 minutes, I was taking the girl home. Right. And so, and then the next day, my friend asked me like, hey, how did you do that? Right. And I sent him, I remember I sent him an audio and I said, yeah, like, I know what you're thinking. Like, you think that at first my conversation sucked. Right. And he was like, yeah, like it sucked. But then I told him, you see, it sucked, but it didn't affect me. It didn't affect me. I stood still. I was confident in myself. Like, I knew what I was saying was bullshit. My opener was nothing crazy, but I just stayed there, confident in my vibe, in my body language, and it worked. Right. And obviously, as we built the connection with the girl, the conversation became much better. So you have to accept a bit of awkwardness. It's not always going to be fancy. Okay. And so in this module, what we're going to focus on is much more, the vibe, the energy that you bring into the conversation than the actual words. The words don't really matter in the first few seconds. They don't really matter. Okay. And so if you say hello to a girl, I love this. If you say hello to a girl and the girl is saying hello back, you've effectively done the approach phase. like to me, like that's a win. Like congrats, good luck, right? Good luck for the rest, but congrats. Awesome. So and just to finish with this, like, have you ever read like a great book that lasted one line? A great one-line book doesn't exist, right? So greatness comes with depth. She needs to get to know you, get to know who you are, to be attracted to you, right? And it's going to be more on that tomorrow as well. So what matters during the approach is not the content of what you say. It's the content doesn't matter. What matters is the energy that you bring, the energy you carry during the approach. And it's also how you follow up with it. So you can approach and say hi, and then it goes like, hi. Now what matters is not what you said first. What matters is what you're going to say right now. You understand? So a lot of guys, they're not taking action because they're like, I don't know what to say. And I'm like, dude, just go say hi, right? Because what matters is not what you're going to say first, but it's going to be what you follow up with. Do you understand? So do not focus on having the perfect sentence to come up with, but rather focus on not making crucial mistakes, right? And no, so let's talk about crucial mistakes. First mistake is not letting her notice you. You remember my first ever approach was success because I made sure she noticed me first and I grabbed her eye contact. Okay, and then I put myself like literally in front of her with some an arm's length between her and me. Okay, I didn't start talking before she stopped walking, so I waited for her to fully focus her attention on me. I didn't talk too fast. My first sentence was not too long. I said, hey, I saw you from over there and I had to come over because you really intrigued me. So really simple sentence, right? If you're in a nightclub, it would have to be even shorter and easier to understand. Okay? So now we're going to dive into a little bit of step-by-steps and a few reminders before you start taking action today. So step-by-step, how to approach girls anywhere. The first step, again, if you want the notes, message me notes on Telegram, Facebook, and email. I'll send you the doc. So the first step is to get her attention, right? Get her attention. And the second step is to start a conversation. It's never the opposite. You never talk to a girl before she focuses on you. So literally the first thing you're going to do is you're going to let her physically notice you. So during the daytime, you have to walk a meter ahead of her. If you're going to talk to her, it has to be like you looking over the shoulder, right? You grabbing her attention over your shoulder. Okay? Then you're going to smile and hold eye contact for at least 3 seconds. Okay? And that, like, not saying anything, but grabbing her eye contact is going to create sexual tension. Then you're going to command attention with your voice. You can say, hey, hi, you, whatever, right? Just a little word, just something that comes out of your mouth just to get the ball rolling, right? And to command her attention. And then as soon as you get her attention, you're going to stop. You're going to anchor your feet on the ground, right? So if a girl walks a bit fast, right? What you want to do is you want to walk with her, but you don't want to follow her. You want to walk ahead of her, 1 meter ahead of her. It's almost like it should look like she's the one following you. So if the girl is busy, you're probably not going to hard stop her. You're going to walk with her. Okay. If it's a girl in a bar, for example, you're going to stand in front of her. Okay. So there's a few slight differences, technical differences, depending on where you're at, which scenario you're in. But most likely focus on the fundamentals, right? Focus on getting noticed, commanding attention, right? And when you do that, be chill, be relaxed, right? I teach my clients a few different things when it comes to body language. I teach being relaxed, their shoulders relaxed, smile, right? And so from there, you have to start a conversation. And one of my mentors told me that the best way to approach is to skip the approach. Right? So instead of like being like, hey, like, what's your name? And like having to go through all these boring things, just assume familiarity, assume you already know each other. Right? A lot of times in a club, when I meet a girl, I'm like, hey, who do you know here? Right? It's like assuming we have common friends. Right? And so a few mindsets that you're going to need to carry and really keep as a reminder are the following. The first one is assuming familiarity. The second one is assuming the positive. Okay, so assume the positive, relax, smile, assume that the girl is not going to reject you, assume the girl is going to stop to listen to what you have to say, right? And the last one is the selector mindset. You're going to learn much more tomorrow when I teach you, literally how to make a girl chase you and all these things, these more technical things. But right now, I want you to think about like, what would your conversation skills look like if you were actually a selector, right? If you were truly, genuinely selecting girls, instead of approaching girls trying to sell yourself, what if you went up to girls thinking, hey, are you a good fit for my life? Right? Like, how would your interactions change if you had this mentality of like selecting girls? If you approached every girl with the $10,000 check mentality, meaning that you approach a girl the same way you would if you had a $10,000 check to give her completely for free. Imagine this, like imagine you walk up through two girls and you have like a $10,000 check to give her for free for no reason because you're a part of some charity whatsoever. Okay. How would your conversation look like? Do you think if a girl told you, oh, no, sorry, like I'm busy, do you think you would just walk away and be like, oh, I'm sorry? No, you would be like, hey, girl, like I have a $10,000 check for you. Right? You would be more persistent, right? You would also maybe make sure that she's a good fit for that check as well, right? So think about these different mindsets. They're very, very important. Now, part number 3 is copy pasting my lines. And this is going to be the last thing before we dive into the assignments. Okay. So I told you earlier, like, I'm not a big fan of giving you lines because literally most of my lines are, hey, how are you? Right? Now, I'm still going to give you a few lines that you can go and apply. Most importantly, I'm going to walk you through a few different concepts, a few different principles and leverages. So basically, you have to understand that the less scripted part of your conversations is probably the opener, right? And so the more contextual, the better. When you're sexualizing with a girl, when you are making her chase you, you're going to realize soon enough that you're going to keep using the same lines over and over again. But when you're approaching a girl, it has to be very contextual. So a lot of times I talk about, what's happening around me. I talk about what she's doing, what she's wearing. I talk about how I feel, how she feels. I talk about a bunch of different things that are very contextual. Okay. So for example, if two girls are talking, I'll come up and I'll finish their sentence. Or I'll repeat what they said in a ridiculous voice. Or I'll tease them about, what they just said. Now, let me tell you a few openers that I use. So the first kinds of openers I use are called pre-selection openers. That's when you're pre-selecting yourself with your words. This means that you're showing that you have some sort of like social status, or you have some sort of like validation from other people. Let me tell you this: if you have like hot girls as in your social circle, that's called pre-selection. That's called sexual pre-selection. Okay. I teach guys, if you want to learn more about this, you can get a copy of the attraction script, because that is literally extracted from the attraction script. Okay, it's $47 right now. If you yeah, if you go to attractionscript.com/discount. Anyway, so some of my pre-selection openers are: number one, who are you? And I say it in a playful manner with a smile on my face. Are you new here? I've never seen you before. That's literally an opener I say all the fucking time. And another one, which is much more cocky, much more polarizing, is I missed you, right? I'll look at a girl and say, I missed you. Okay. Now, familiarity openers are a different kind of openers. So they're the one where you assume familiarity, which is something I taught you earlier. And so you could say something like, oh, he's not coming if you see the girl waiting for somebody. Or you could say something like, he dies at the end if she's reading a book, right? Or you could say, oh, like you shouldn't do that if she's doing anything like, slightly different from the norm. Like, for example, I don't know, man, like she's drinking some like coconut water. Like, you shouldn't drink that, right? So you can open them like doing a little familiarity opener. Okay, awesome. So guys, I will see in the chat if what you are saying, guys. Let me know. I have the chat open, guys. If you need to ask me any questions, and from there, we'll just start with the assignment and the mission. And I'll tell you what the mission is for today. Okay, so I'm leaving the chat open. If you have any questions, you can ask it in the chat and I'll see it. So your assignment, you have two things to do today. The first thing is your assignment. So you need to download the handbook and do the very short assignment. The second thing you need to do is the mission. And so the mission means you need to go out and take action and meet 5 to 10 women. 5 women is like you're almost a loser. You almost failed the boot camp. 10 women is like, okay, now you're serious about your success. So I highly encourage you to do 10 women. And I strongly recommend you approach at least 5 women if you don't want to feel like a failure when you go to bed tonight. Okay? And I'm going to give you 2 exercises. Okay? The first exercise for the mission is going to be the vibe check mission. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to see a girl walk down the streets, and you're not going to focus on what to say. You're not going to focus on really approaching them. What you're going to focus on is you're going to focus on smiling to them, allowing yourself to be sexual in a way that, not being sexual, but allowing yourself to put your feelings out there. So it's like, I see a hot girl, I smile because I like this girl. Allowing yourself to be human. Okay. So you're going to smile at 5 girls and hold eye contact. Okay. That's the first mission. It's the vibe check mission. And so for this vibe check mission, you don't even have to approach a girl. Okay. You don't even have to approach her. You can just smile to her. Okay. That's just to put yourself in the mood. Now, the real mission is approaching 5 gorgeous women, 5 to 10 minimum. Okay. And then going free flow. Okay. And applying the advice that I just gave you. So, dealing with your approach anxiety, making a first, starting the conversation, using all the stuff we've gone through today. Okay. So with that being said, the only thing left now is for you to take action. You cannot escape. I'm watching you literally. And yeah,